Okay, how about a little boot cow video? Everybody likes a little boot scooting. So I'm kind of going halfway through this. I'll try to kind of catch you up. Again, it's just kind of good. You'll get to see some things. All right, to start with, I'm going to show you. You'll see in the video that's on that Cub Crafters has about the firewall. This is the firewall. And these are the angles that you're going to put on. They call them side angles. You can see here, this is a round hole that's at the bottom. This is actually the left side of the aircraft. This is actually where the gasilator will mount up through here eventually. So anyway, that you'll see that's kind of a reference on your firewall of where it goes. It's going to go on the left side of the aircraft, and everything you do is going to be in relation to this being on this left side, so that your angles are going to come outwards, you know, towards the engine side. Okay. You can see here that these are the heads are on the back side. These are special rivets that are a little different than the other ones you'll see. They're round headed. They'll all be used from the heads on the back side. Apparently it takes longer to burn through the squeezed sides than it does the other sides. These two rivets here that will go, they're below this hole. You'll see it's kind of not real clear on the diagrams and videos, but these two will be flush mounted, and the heads will be on the outboard or forward side. And the reason you'll see later is the heater duct, cabin heat, I don't know what you call it, control box will go here. That'll open and close the flap to let the heat go in. It's going to mount flush here, so you can't have any heads sticking out in the way here. So that's why you're going to rivet these sides of these heads. I don't remember if they tell you in the video or in the manual really, but these last two holes, the bottom holes when you're putting these side angles on, don't put them in yet. Go ahead and rivet all your rivets all the way around your side angles, except leave the last ones here. And you'll see why a little later. I went ahead and mounted my tunnel on the bench in the forum post. I think the first time I rode it, I said I usually mount the bracket on here. These are actually the bracket rivets down the side. There's three on this side and 7 I think up here. But I go ahead, it's just as easy to go ahead and mount the tunnel and rivet it while you're on your bench. So before you ever bring the firewall over here, you can do that. So firewall, put your side angles in, put your tunnel in, okay? Then once you've got that done, here's your board. And I talk about leaving this board, you know, a lot further than they say away from the edge. And the reason is, I'll get my rivet squeezer here. The reason is we're going to have to squeeze all these rivets around here, and you're going to have enough room for this to get in here and squeeze. So you can see I've actually cut a notch out of the end of my rivet squeezer. I cut this notch right here. And the problem with cutting this plywood, you could have cut it back further, but actually this is really flimsy. That firewall is not stiff. So I just cut it back a little bit, and that way when we go to rivets, you see that gives me enough room to put that in there like that, and then we can squeeze the rivets when we come around here a little later. I'll show that on a video how we're going to do that. So anyway, that's where we're cutting that wood back, and it looks like I've got it. Turn it this way. Yeah, I've got it about 1 3/4 inches. Yeah, about 1 3/4 inches right there. And that works with the rivet squeezer head cut down. But like I say, the distance from here to here on this firewall is really flimsy. You can take it and really just bend it, see, back and forth, even though I've got this clamped on here. It'll bend a lot. So one thing you're going to be careful of, you'll see here, these are the screws on the back side. I've taken washers. I took some 970 washers in the kit that had the small holes, and I used some wood screws, sheetrock screws. Now these are actually going through holes that are already in the firewall. Obviously you don't want to drill holes or go through the firewall. I'm using the existing holes in the firewall like these here. And I'm putting the big washer on the other side, and I'm screwing it through here close to the edge all the way around. Every place I had a good place to put a hole in, I put one in to try to hold it and keep it stiff. Obviously when you put your bolts through. These are your mounting bolt holes here, and then here and here. They'll help push it in too. So do that, secure it. The whole time you're doing everything on here, you'll want to keep looking at this edge until you get everything clamped up and riveted in, and make sure that this is not pushed away, that you're not pushing this firewall edge to make your boot cowl sides fit. That's not the way to do it. You want to work it in to where it's correct. So keep checking along the way that that's like that. If I need to pull that out, you can take a small screwdriver. I use a little weird pick. These are little picks I got at Harbor Freight. See, that has kind of a weird little side. It actually works real good to get in here if you need to later as you go along and grab the back side of this firewall, so I can move it forward or back. And you'll see we'll really need to do that in the next step when we start putting the shims in here. So anyway, we got it up to that point. You take it and you put it up to the fuselage, put the bolts through the fuselage bolts. And then what I do, I don't actually go as far as clamping. I'm going to go through here. I actually take a rubber hammer and I push it, making sure you're looking before you put these side panels on. You're looking, you can see inside. And I don't know if you can see them or not. I've actually got clamps bolted onto the holes, onto the bolts, I mean. So I push them through there, make sure it's pushed up good against the firewall, against the fuselage, the mount. And once it's real firm, then I put a good clamp, not these kinds, but one of the ones you can clamp down. I just put them on the bolt on that side instead of trying to get a bolt that's threaded all the way and screwing them down and all that. This will work just fine. Just clamp a couple of them down. The bottom ones you can't do because the pedals are in the way, and that's okay. It usually stays down anyway. So mount that up there. The manual says and the video says, and it's to start at the bottom, putting these panels on. All right, that's wrong. It doesn't work that way the best. You start with the left side, and the reason there's a lip on this piece here that goes down, which is still not a big deal. You can do either one and slip that lip under, but there's a lip underneath here. I'll also say that, I don't know if I can show it to you or not, where that lip is. I can't. But you'll see on this left side panel that it goes over here, then it turns down and leaves a pretty good lip that's going down. Well, this is the way they were on the EX2s, but you can see these cutouts now. If you've got one of the newer kits, the last 2 or 3 I've gotten, I already had the holes cut out in the boot cowl side pieces here for the defrosters that we're going to put in, which the EX3 has. If you've got an earlier model, then these weren't cut out, and they give you a template or something. I think you actually put the defroster units on there and then cut them out. But in any case, that little turn in this panel here, the left panel where that turns down, you're really going to need to just remember later to come back here and just, for an area, say from here to here, it's not important, but a little area, you're going to need to cut that off because actually your defroster sits there right up against it. So you'll see it when you go to put your defroster in, and it's easier to do it, now when you're doing this. The reason I like to start at the top putting these panels on, and we're going to start with this left panel, is that this is the part that we're really trying to make work right, okay? You see how I've got that fitted where this tube is really nicely centered in here, really nice. Same thing on this one, okay? The size, the distances are equal. That's kind of the important area here because you're gonna see this, and if you start at the bottom and just come down to the edge on the bottom and put it on there, and then go up this way as you go. When you get there, you go like, oh man, it's sideways, and you take it all apart and you do it again. So just start at the top. I don't know really why anybody said start at the bottom. So start at the top, and you've probably got the instrument panel in. I don't go to all the trouble of putting clamps and screws and everything on this. I go in here, and I can't show you, but I just put some clamps, some spring clamps. Right here you can see it. There's a tab on here. I just mark my spot. See my tape right there? I got my 3 inches from here to here. I put a piece of tape there. Same over there. Then I just take a good spring clamp and just clamp this down. A good strong spring clamp will hold that good. And that's a pain in the ass putting those Adel clamps and bolts and nuts, and I don't know any reason to do it on this one. So I got the clamps there. I got the screws in them and bolts ready for the real panel later, so I don't have to fool with it. But I'm not putting them on this panel. All right, originally you're going to take this panel and just put a little tape here, to keep it from scratching anything. But on this, on the instrument panel, originally would be pushed back, touching up against here until you start your boot cowl. Once you kind of get your boot cowl pieces going on, then you just kind of make sure you push this back, to where it's kind of close to the edge here, so you're getting a good fit. And then just do like I did here, just take some tape and stick it down. It's not a big deal. You just want to make sure that, it's out and it's close, fairly close to the edge, so you're getting a good fit as you come around. Okay, so what I do is take the first one, I go right here. You've got, when you did your firewall, you'll notice there were two, there's a center right here, and there's two close rivets. That's where each of these center angles, there's a rivet here and a rivet here real close. The middle of that's the center, okay? So this is the center, and that's kind of where I'm going to start, is put this over into the center area. You'll see, I'll take this clamp off. You'll see here the two I'm talking about. So the center is right over here where this is at. Also, this bottom part is going to come through here. And the top one, the right side is going to overlap in it, and we'll end up screwing these all three down. Okay, so for right now, we'll clamp it. That's the center line. So making sure that your firewall is up against your board, that you're not pushed in or out, either way. Just go ahead and line up the edge of the flanges like this. You want to line up the edge with this, like this. You'll do that here, starting at the top on every single tab. Make sure it's lined up good, put a clamp on it. Every single one of these tabs, you're going to put a clamp on, okay? So do that and start coming around and just keep pulling the boot cowl and angling it right, so you got the, obviously when you put this up there, we're talking about, we're going to make it so this looks nice across here. So once this is good, come back up here, kind of hold it all in place, get you a couple clamps here. Then just keep working your way around. It'll hold it and it'll keep it good here. And as you come around and you get to about where I'm at right now, what I just did is I got to here, making sure everything was still good. Firewall straight, it's not angled in or out. Everything is right to the edge. If you go to look at this, you can see they're meeting right to the edge like that. And then I come back over to this side. I want to make sure I'm pushing this up. I want to make sure, first of all, I've got enough room. I'm going to have to come 1/4 inch in, and I'm going to put these little bitty screws down through here into the edge of that fabric spracer. So while this will be kind of bowed out, you'll see in the video, Mitch gets some sticks and all that kind of stuff. You really don't need to. You can probably just get it close enough with this, but push it in so that you make sure when you're touching here and it's across here, it's touching here, just kind of smooth out like that. You just want to make sure you can look underneath there before you put the tape on. So if you can look underneath, make sure you got some room over across the edge of this fabric spacer, because it was on the edge of the fabric spacer for the fuselage, and that's what you're going to screw these screws into. So you just want to make sure you got it this way far enough to where you got 1/4 inch edge distance to put your little screws in as we come down here later. I'm not going to do that now. I'm going to wait till after I cool. We're going to end up covering this, and then we'll have poly brush, poly spray, and paint. So I'm not going to drill those holes here until I get ready to install the boot cowl after it's painted. You'll go down here, make sure everything I've got's fine. I haven't had to trim. If you're doing it right, you probably will not have to do any trimming around here, okay? So as you're going, just keep doing what I'm talking about. Push, make this, if you get this down and get it at the right angle and it's flat here, you should be able to work around it. It's amazing how good these guys are, because as you come around, it won't take much influence to pushing and pulling and making stuff work to where they'll line right up. And what happens when you come around, like I have finished on this side, come all the way around. Bam, it came right out, okay? So again, we don't have a rivet in this hole yet, okay? And the reason is you'll see more later. If this didn't come out, you'll see there's a big bend right here, okay? And there's a bend right here. So you can see it right kind of in there, see? So when I get down to the end, I can kind of, it's already a bend right there, an angle, right? In this. So So if I need to push this, if this needs to go that way just a little bit after I'm coming down from the top, say it's sticking out a little bit, I can just push it on over, okay? I can just push it on over and let the extra amount be right here in this bend, okay? So it can come all the way around this way, be perfect, come over to here and get it perfect, and then if it pooches out a little bit right there, who cares? It doesn't matter, because the outside of it will still be perfect. So that's where you can kind of take up your slack if you need to. You can see here in this case, it's not much. I had just a little bit of difference, okay? And when I go to drill these in here, I'll leave that little gap right there and make it perfect. You can see it's pushed out just a little bit here, but I'll push it in before I go to doing any of this rivets. You see, this is where it's going to the tunnel, it's just a little bit out. So work your way all the way around the left side, or the left side, and then come back around to your right side. You can see here I actually did it opposite. So I put the right side on, but it doesn't matter. You can still put the left side up. You just have to stick this panel up underneath there when you do it. Makes no difference. The tunnel was already in here, right? So then I just go up there and I pull the tunnel together. I just got some clamps, and I clamped it, trying to get kind of the bottom edge level. In some cases, it won't be level. You actually just come back and trim that edge off, like you'll see, I think, in the video or the manual. In this case, it's perfect. And then I went ahead and clamped it good, then drilled number 40 holes. And I've got Clecos in here for now. So this side is completely done. You can see how I've done over here. It fits good all around the landing gear attached fitting here. And you can see I've got the tape, so that on this side it's the same thing. I'm wanting this to meet the edge all the way aft against it. It'll end up being flush with this back aft edge when you get through, and that's where we'll put it when we actually put the screws in down through here later. Okay, you see it fits around there good. Everything fit just wonderful. Same thing here. I just got the panel out enough to where, I make sure it's sitting the way it's going to sit, just like that. Beautiful. Okay, so that's how it ought to be. And the next thing after we get this done, then we're going to go put these shims in, and I'll talk a little bit about these shims. If you're looking at my forum post, I'll get the light around here. If you're looking at my forum post that I had, I'll talk about the shims. And I don't remember the big shims being cut out down here like this before. So that's a little something different. And this is a kit I got just in this past January of 2020. And I don't believe this was ever on a kit before. I talk about in the forum, and you'll see Mitch talk about how you locate which way these shims go. They're cut at a specific angle to be sure that they'll fit because as the radius, you can see the radius is different as it goes around. So there's more bend up here than it is down here. That's way too far of math over my head to figure out. So they have cut these things. I just stack them up. Here are the two. Put them all up, just put them together like that. Put these together like that. You will notice that they still have a notch cut, okay? So that notch, like I say in the forum, that notch is going up on the top, and it's going, that dot where I got the notches is going inboard. So these shims are going to go right where I have it, where you just like you pick this one up, it's going to go, that dot is going to go up here and on the inboard side. It's going to go in just like that when we put them in. Now to see about the curve, take the small shims, these here, and just lay it up to be sure you're using them the same way. Get them together, put everything together, and then lay them up like this, right on the edge of this, and you'll notice it should match the exact same angled cut if you got them right, okay? So you can see here, this is the exact same angle, just like this right here, okay? Just like that. Okay, so that's what I do. So now you know you got them all aligned correctly. The little ones are there. So once I've done that, I know my small shims are the same as this, and I lay them on top like this, and then I just put a blue dot on top of it, on both of them. And that's just telling me which side's which. So I know that the blue dot, and I didn't finish, so I usually put an arrow, and the arrow is the same size as the notch. So I'm showing myself that that's going to go inboard. The dots, this end is going up and is going inboard, okay? So that's how we're going to determine how to put those shims in. And the purpose of the shims is the big shim is going to give you an area that's going to stick out beyond here like this, and that's going to come out beyond this. So when you put your regular cowl on, it's going to sit over and match up with the edge of your boot cowl when we trim it. And that big shim is sticking out. So then later, when we mount the cowl, that's where our rivets, our nut plates are going to go into on there, which we're going to put in later, that the cowl will actually screw into, okay? So then the small shim, what that's doing is it's going to go between the big shim and the boot cowl. So it's going in there. And the reason it's for, it's a spacer basically. So so it's going just like this. The big one's going to go on the inside. The shim is going to go there. And then of course you got your firewall here. What that's doing is giving you a spacer in between here. So when your boot cowl, or when your cowl comes around and meets up, it makes it so it matches up and makes a smooth meet where it comes up to the boot cowl. You know, otherwise the boot, if you didn't back that off, then if you just left that up flush, put your cowl on, it would be sitting higher than your boot cowl, and it would look like crap. So that's the purpose of that little one, is a shim. So it's pushing that big one spacer back, or big shim back out of the way. So when you mount it to there, it's going to be a nice smooth fit across here. Okay, so I think I got enough video, everything for everybody. And what I was saying in the forum post, if you're a little concerned about it, this side it's easy to tell that you're over far enough onto the edge. You don't have a lot of room on that fabric spacer to get it right, so you got to have this come all the way out to the edge. On this side, if you want to check it later, I've already started papering this, getting ready to go to the paint booth, but you can take if you worry about, here's the fabric spacer on the inside, right? This is the boot cowl I just put up. This fabric spacer is going right to the outside right over there. You can take a Sharpie and just run the Sharpie down this boot cowl edge, and I'll do it after a while. And even though I looked at it good when I was pushing it up there, but just to be sure that boot cowl is completely far enough over, you know, over the spacer here, then when you take this back off later, you can look at it and you can make sure, you'll see that your Sharpie line should be over here, you know, with enough, you probably need at least a 1/2 inch, because you need a 1/4 inch edge distance, and of course you need a 1/4 inch edge distance there. So in any case, I'll keep working, and I'll come back later and I will show maybe putting the last of those shims in.